Hello. So now I thought I was going to actually give you some constructive tips about something that is near and dear to my heart, which is unit testing. Now, unit testing is one of those tricky things where everybody talks about it as this thing that is necessary in order to maintain the quality of a code base, and some people will even be so zealous that they will tell you that you can't possibly create a company around an application that has no unit test. I'm going to start off by telling you immediately that that is absolutely false. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever why you can't found a company and start moving without unit tests. It's completely unfounded there, and there is virtually no conclusive proof that unit tests will make or break your company. Will it increase the quality of your code? That's also a tricky thing to answer. What it will do, I think that we can all agree, is that it will provide a value. It will provide value in the sense that you are more likely to catch issues with unit testing. However, I am not in any way trying to say that you should have unit tests or you shouldn't have unit tests, because it kind of depends on the project that you're building. I mean, unit testing for a more mature project, which is like enterprise level stuff, like we're talking Google, Facebook, like massive super companies, of course not just these companies, but companies who have basically they can afford to do unit testing, but you should know that unit testing, when it comes to delivering features, takes longer. You should know that. That is not a bad thing. Things taking more time is not a bad thing. If you think it's a bad thing, then unit tests are not for you. Because remember that unit tests are most likely going to help you get less bugs, and bugs are also time. Fixing bugs also takes time. So, that being said, now let's talk about doing something concrete. Now, the thing that people will tell you is that most of the time that they have not really focused on unit testing, and there's not much in terms of coverage. When I was working for Ticketmaster, I was in that exact position. Like that's always the case. They will tell you, oh, we have some unit tests. If you hear people saying that, well, we've been trying to add more unit tests, or like, if the answer is anything, or when you ask about unit tests, if the answer is anything besides, yeah, we do a lot of unit testing, we have like conclusive, extensive testing practices that we adhere and follow, if that's not your answer, they don't have like proper coverage most likely. So actually, this is the exact same situation that I am in at my services that I work for now. And they've been asking me I've been asked if, I have some ideas how to do this migration from a fairly ad hoc, untested code base over to something of a little bit more quality. And I've actually started this process with them where I want to just figure out if they're actually interested in this, or if it's just at a conceptual level, because remember, the entire industry is hyping unit tests to the point where people are like, they associate unit tests with quality of the product, and that's just not true. It's not true. It is not. I can tell you firsthand that that's not the case. But how do you actually achieve something like that? What is it that I am going to, assuming that my colleagues are on board and my boss wants me to do this, what is it that I will do? Well, now we're talking about front-end unit tests specifically. So when it comes to front-end specific unit tests, the first and foremost thing, we use React. So the first and foremost thing to do is to get Jest. Preferably, you can use Mocha as well if you want to, or like any other runner if you will. In that case, you should go with Istanbul or some other code coverage tool. I prefer Jest because I love Jest. I have a few other videos about Jest, and Jest will give you code coverage. And the simple fact is that the best way I have found in my experience to solve this problem of getting up your coverage is to have a threshold, because you can actually say to Jest, you can specify in your project, and most other coverage tools such as Istanbul can actually take a percentage or a line coverage or a number that indicates, okay, this is how many unit tests or how many covered lines we should have for you to have an acceptable run of our unit test. If you go under that number, you will throw an error, or the program will throw an error. Now, what is so powerful about this? Well, what's really powerful about this is that you can today, let's say that you decided today my company is going to be unit test driven, we're going to do all those nice things that everybody's talking about, then you can basically say, configure in your project and say, this, like, just run your test, get the coverage report, this is your coverage today, and then you set a threshold, a script that your CI or like continuous integration pipeline is going to have. Like, before you even deploy, you can even put it at the commit hook level, whereas you can't actually commit code unless you're at that threshold. What that means is that no one can write more code without maintaining the same amount of coverage. And after a week or two, you reevaluate, because like they can't commit code unless they pass that bar, right? That means that next week you take a look at your coverage and see, has that number been increased? Is the threshold going up? Because if it has gone up, you set the threshold again. Now that's the minimum. And slowly, little by little, you're building a higher and higher threshold. And that is my best tip to you. Try this approach at your company. It has worked very well for me, for both Ticketmaster and other like projects I've been working for previously. The results will be dramatic. Trust me on this, because if you think that you're going to just write all the unit tests in one go, that's not going to work. This approach is an iterative process, and over time it will give you a lot of benefit. Hope you like it.